Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Ayşe Süberker. More friends and less enemies. That's how Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan described his visit to Athens, where he met Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis. The two leaders oversaw the signing of 15 accords, including one that will allow for easier travel between the two countries. Erdogan said he believed cooperation will lead to a new era in ties. The two leaders also signed a joint declaration to pursue what they called good neighborly relations. Erdogan added that territorial disagreements can be resolved through dialogue. Greek leaders also called for bilateral trade to hit $10 billion annually. In what's already their third face-to-face meeting this year, Erdogan and Mitsotakis continued the positive momentum after Greece became one of the first countries to offer aid following the February 6 earthquakes in southern Turkiye. So could this latest meeting really help both sides turn a new page? And for more on President Erdogan's visit to Greece after 6 years, joining me now from Athens is Dimitri Triantopoulou. He is a professor at Pantheon University of Social and Political Sciences. And from Ankara, Yücel Acar, she is a professor at Yıldırım Beyazıt University. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. Dimitri, could you talk to us about the importance of the Turkish President Erdogan's visit to Greece?
Yes, I think it signals a new era in the sense that what the two leaders and their foreign ministers had agreed in July in Vilnius on the margins of the NATO summit, they've sort of kept to the letter. They agreed to start a structured dialogue with meetings between foreign ministers, deputy foreign ministers, defense ministers and others. This high-level cooperation council meeting and with a number of agreements that were signed, low politics agreements, positive agenda agreements, CBMs, confidence building measures, and also the Athens Declaration on friendship and good neighborly relations, which I think is fundamental, that shows the new way forward. And you know, it sort of reminds me, I was thinking of comparisons in global history, other than going back to 1930, when Venizelos at the time and Hizmet İnönü signed a similar declaration. It's a little bit like Helsinki was during the Cold War. East and West in Europe started talking in 1975 in Helsinki, where they basically said, we agree to disagree, but we are willing to talk to each other openly and frankly, and to try to minimize as much as possible the tensions between us. And I think this is a message that comes up from this visit.
So, Yücel, I mean, how significant was it, since it came exactly 6 years after Erdogan and then Greek President Pavlopoulos argued openly in a press conference over the Lausanne Treaty of 1923? So what has changed since then, and what are the major factors that pushed the two leaders to reconcile?
We all know that there are some fundamental disputes between two countries concerning the agency and, you know, Eastern Mediterranean Sea and some other issues. As long as they are there, it's really difficult to keep the relations at a very good pace. But this is significant. This is a significant visit to Athens by Turkish President Erdogan, simply because, you know, so far, two countries had quite difficult times, especially until the beginning of this year. You know, there were no contacts, official contacts, for a long time. But early year, you know, two countries started to see each other. And this time, this visit, on the occasion of this visit, two countries decided to establish a strong framework with the Athens Declaration. We know that there is a declaration now, and it defines how two countries are going to cooperate and how the two countries are going to handle the issues. But this is another significant aspect of the Athens Declaration, is that two countries are going to concentrate on the cooperation on various fields which are regarded as positive issues, rather than at this stage, rather than trying to focus on the existing fundamental disputes.
Yes. So, Dimitri, it seems that maritime disputes, as Yücel just briefly mentioned, and the Cyprus issue did not top the two leaders' agenda during their meeting. So what do you make of it, since these two issues were the main reasons behind years of tensions between Turkey and Greece?
Yeah, I am not sure they were not discussed. I think they were discussed, but the thing is that the emphasis this time was on the process of how to enhance confidence between the two sides and how to move on from here on. And I think the declaration, if one looks at it carefully, one says that the next steps are moving to these issues, these issues that divide the two countries, without assuming that there might be a resolution. It might be very difficult to resolve some of these issues, but a willingness to try to tackle them, to try to understand the other side. Where there's agreement, try to bridge the difference. On some issues, in particular, Greece suggests the maritime issue is one issue. If there's the possibility to go to the international court or some other arbitration, to go forward and do this. But the emphasis is on process and making sure that this dialogue, which we've had dialogue throughout our histories, it's not like something new, but at least it's within a framework which allows confidence building measures, which allows frank talks. And I think this is the key benefit from this, the fact that, and there's not only that, but if you think yesterday about the statements that both the Greek Prime Minister and the Turkish President made, basically both sides stated their country's positions and the differences that exist. Mm-hmm. The manner they stated it, though, is so much different than, say, the press conference between Nikos Dendias and Mehmet Çavuşoğlu a year ago, whenever it was in Ankara, where it was a very destructive press conference.
Yes.
It's the way to suggest things. You also saw, for example, Mitsotakis made his statement, Erdogan made his statement. Erdogan said the Turkish position regarding the minority in Thrace. Then the Greek Prime Minister took the floor and said, no, we disagree. It is not a Turkish minority. We call it a Muslim minority, blah, blah, blah. Erdogan did not react. And then Erdogan, after the meeting was over, went to the Turkish embassy to meet with minority leaders. You see that diplomacy shows that there are other ways of still making your point, but without the tension. And I think this is really the positive clue, the difference between 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and other times in the past.
So, Yücel, what do you think? Does that mean Turkey will be backing down from its blue homeland doctrine moving forward?
I think, as Dimitri says, there is no change at the moment, the respective positions of two countries concerning the fundamental issues. Of course, we understand from the press conferences as well, there are still huge differences concerning the fundamental issues that include Cyprus, Western Thrace minority issues, and the Aegean issues. But this is not the point at the moment, according to two countries. Mm-hmm. They just decided to concentrate on positive agenda. That means it's quite really, astonishing to see that two countries at the same time really want to improve their bilateral relations in various areas, including the international trade and tourism and many other issues. One other important aspect is that just before this summit, in actually November, there was a meeting in Ankara that concerned the confidence building measures, especially between the military of these two countries. It have not been able to do this for at least 3 years. And this time, especially in the Athens Declaration, again, two leaders emphasized that they try to support the application of confidence building measures. That's also significant.
So, Dimitri, President Erdogan has repeatedly called on third parties not to interfere in Turkey and Greece's relations. So, what do you think? What was he hinting at? And was this aimed at any particular country?
Well, I mean, from a Greek perspective, this has always been something that the Turkish side is always saying, that, Greece, behind Greece, other countries such as the US, that's the hint. And other big European countries are always behind Greece in its positions. And that was a hint. But and of course, the US here is what was hinted on. I think President Erdogan has done this even before he came to Athens in public statements. But the issue is that if one looks at what was discussed, the deals that were signed, and even the Athens Declaration, it's a bit difficult to do this. I mean, the EU plays big, for example, because it's not just the US, it's the Europeans. The EU plays big on whatever agreement can be done in issues of migration. The EU plays big even on that visa deal that was declared, that was announced, regarding Turkish citizens going to selected Greek islands for 7 days a year. That had to clear through the Schengen process in the EU. The EU is big when it comes to the positive agenda between the EU and Turkey, as the report that was issued last week by the High Representative suggests. I think there is a synergy that one should not necessarily look at badly. The synergy is there because Turkey is a candidate. Candidacy might not be advancing as fast as Turkey would want or some other countries would want, but there's a deep relationship there. But even if President Erdogan hinted at the US, I think what we need to focus on are the semantics. We had the two leaders of two countries that are relevant in the region, NATO member states, southeastern flank of NATO, as they've always been, meeting, putting forward a good face at a time and a region that's in flux. There's tumult everywhere. We have what's happening in Gaza. We have the Syrian civil war. We have war happening in Libya. We have the Ukraine war. And so the world is changing, but the two leaders are saying, we are here to contribute, as the declaration says, together to peace. And I think this is a fundamental thing we have to keep in mind.
So, Yücel, what do you think? Will both countries, you think, be able to maintain what they call this positive momentum that started this year? And do you see any challenges?
I think if there would be no serious issues, external issues affecting the bilateral relations of two countries, I think this phase will continue for a long time because both countries now really know better than any other country that regional cooperation, especially between Greece and Turkey, will benefit both countries economically, commercially, and politically. This is not enough, actually. All these confidence-building attitudes, rather than not only benefiting from commercially and economically and politically, they are also trying to establish bases to handle the fundamental disputes. I think in the future, we should expect that two countries will start, negotiating on the fundamental issues to get rid of them so that they will be able to establish a permanently stable relations between two countries.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.